Yep, we're here.
Okay, so I'll start with the first poem.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, the middle-aged Armenian man. The middle-aged Armenian man walked the silent streets of this industrial Midwestern town. Many of them have been here only a month or two, walking with one hand crossed over the other behind their backs. Some finger amber prayer beads. Each is silent. In their homes, they preach the language and culture of Armenia to their children, their unruly, preoccupied children. Each have become strangers to the other, erecting barriers they cannot pass over. Years later, these grown children seek out aging old men who knew their fathers and who carry Armenia in their fallen faces. Armenia. Each regards that country now as his home. Seated in the coffee houses, Rocky and Turkish coffee are passed around. Slowly, these young men begin to course the rush of blood that brought them to this moment in time. Now what? Hello?
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was a great starting poem highlighting your heritage.
Mm-hmm. You want me to keep reading? I'm not sure I have the voice for it, but I'll try.
Yeah, keep going as long as you can.
Mm-hmm. Okay. This one's called Dada, which means Godfather. Seated on a metal folding chair, long afternoons in front of the church, an old nameless Armenian man, anonymous except for nationality, and a secret bond between God and countrymen. Sundays he became a part of the throng and shuffled quietly inside, always out of sight. But all week he held this mysterious vigil in old clothes and beatific smile. Strange how men for whom I held a secret pity then were really the guardians of a way of life and life itself. This next one is called On the Death of My Father. Dead now and forever, ceremony release him to the ground where once he played in tales that have been handed down. Cupped upturned hands lower through your spreading fingers, this soil splashed man. You knew him first, that touched you last. His circling, fading time hovers over my head. Is life my own, to lose or live again? Take him, earth, in final release. Toss you and catch you in your cloudy hands. He'll know your touch. His feet, when he comes to you, are sure to be bare.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. We're really enjoying these poems.
Should I read another one?
Yeah, keep going for as long as you can, and then we can stop for a little bit and do like some questions and answers.
Okay.
Because we've got
Um,
about 20 people, 21 in the chat listening to you tonight.
okay, I'll give it a shot. This one's called That Day. Just once, my father stopped on the way into the house from work and joined in the softball game we were having in the street and attempted to play in our game that his country had never known. Just once, and the day stands out forever in my memory as a father's living gesture to his son that in playing even the fool or clown, he would reveal that the lines of their lives were sewn from a tougher fabric than the son had previously known.
Some
His,
great.
histories.
Mm-hmm.
What do we gain from our parents that was never ours, but in being theirs was ours? I wonder about the food and music, and especially the tongue that never ceased to make me laugh or weep, because I realize now that our tongue has always been a member of the heart, not the head, a language for histories and passions, spent perhaps, but alive, alive always in the body of each man. I put all that aside because so many others could say it as well, and take one thing alone that is mine, that no one else can touch or want to understand. My father at an Armenian picnic, dancing round and round and round, his whirling arms in a speech I could not understand, with a knife tightly clenched in his teeth, held fast forever in his bald and spinning head. These are very emotional.
Very beautiful poems. Can really feel a lot of emotion in your writing.
Yeah. Marshall. I was too young to really know Marshall, my father's best friend, who, like my father, had been a short order cook, and like him too, came to this country as an immigrant in flight. And like my father, served overseas in the U.S. Army during the war, and later worked at the Nelson Hotel, barrel-chested and short, also like my dad, with thinning hair turned white, while my father was bald. But with a different disposition, a quiet, girlish voice, and shy reserve, and with an open, eager smile, and with a look that would never offend. I would watch them from the other room, sitting together, hardly ever speaking, comforting each other with silence, a silence that softened unforgettable memories from their tortured past. God, I wrote these poems 50 years ago, and they still make me cry.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of emotion in there for sure.
Yeah. This was, I'm going off, I guess, cornfields in Wisconsin to Vincent van Gogh. I never thought of cornfields again or wandered over them until I was grown, walking inside the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, to come upon them again, golden now, in Van Gogh's last painting, crows gliding above them as my crows never did. His radiant sun that never left him began to seed itself, traveling out to others, not knowing how, as I did not know, that it would one day rise up and appear in me.
Wow, outstanding.
Waiting to be. How does one follow one star when there's no evidence, only an impulse, a desire, along with a wish, largely unconscious, that is waiting to be? Is it not a wonder that everything in my life had a magical quality of great beauty, fascination, and wonders unseen but known by my soul, that was waiting for me to carry it into the light? Always to be. I don't care if I die now, having lived a good life, for all its faults and frustrations, its finding, seeing, and losing, so sure of this play that it cast me to this stage, meeting I felt to be heard, to expand myself with little regard for all that passed by. Very little of it right for me, but I played a part in it that I chose for myself. When it seemed at times it had chosen me for a great part in the greater part in which I was just a speck, but a mindful one, needing meaning above all, with love and respect of the beautiful and true, of which I never got enough, while the play before me that was being played was not for me. I needed something far beyond, that had grown higher than I could reach, except with great effort and trust in myself that no one could put in me, that I alone must generate for myself. That's every artist's story. Nobody helps until you're famous.
Mhm.
The soul. The soul. Wait a minute. Doesn't want to stand still, like my soul. What was it that first impelled me to draw, squatting under the dining room table, mother and father talking or listening to the radio? What did I want from this? What was my spirit searching for that was hidden from me, from the need arising quietly, reaching for pad and pencil to sketch my father's circular face, waiting on mother's praise? What is this instinct we arrive with inside of us that hurriedly, instantly appears without a name or sound? For this is all we know of soul, long before we learn the word, in a lifetime before we feel we knew what it means. And then how long it took before instinct began to manifest in me.
Wow.
My place, good?
Hmm.
My place in time. Some think of statues and temples, meadows and mountains they long to one day visit, while I worship from a greater distance of space, contained by time, ready to descend the rickety stairs of our dead-end hill in that world outside my door. When I was a young boy, engaged in everyday life with adventures of sights and sounds, our city alive to itself with innocent marauders, free to find their paradise in open air, within factory sounds amidst itinerant travelers with their wares, children searching to find themselves within their daily rounds, making an innocent body, alert in the streets, with a vague glory felt, our daily grail to be fathomed over time, alone in that particular place, shared with others, all of us seemingly alike, where I made my private paradise, to be left where I found it, fully fathomed, and then glorified for all that is and for what I became. Sweet, lingering memories where I learned of love unknowingly, departing to hold forever what was mine. That was my childhood. This one is called Birds. Would life still be life if there were no birds? Their magical presences that kept life flowing in energy and delight. From their wonder and beauty and amazing life, I remember holding one long ago, but never thought to press my nose against its breast to learn its smell, when sweetly held, so near and dear. It is that they can fly as nothing else can, which feels like a blessing. I don't think we could live without these ethereal wonder ever held close between us and God, lifting our spirits forever, always present, wherever seen or not, felt now suddenly and remembered longingly from when I was once young and wild like them. Let me take a little drink of water.
Mm-hmm.
Love always. Why is it so easy and comfortable to love people now when I had such difficulties with this before? It takes loving and losing, hurt, hard hurt and healing to warm up to love. It comes easily now when I realize we are all in one basket, carrying ourselves and somehow being carried by others in roles so different but not hard to fill. Once we know we are in need and also needed, and that being alone is not as necessary as being supported and also offering support. For we are all weak and lonely and afraid and in need of love, and as importantly, to love. Mother. Now and then I glance at my mother's handiwork, a blanket in particular that sits neglected on our closet shelf, too worn now for use. Its long ago warmth no longer felt, barely remembered. Amazed now by its sewn squares of different yarns, the colors blending that if not stitched in place, her homemade art would clash, but love binds all and finds its place in patterns configured, appearing from another source. The words art and love, seen at once together, not alone or apart. This is called early. Was conscience born in me or revealed on that early evening so long ago when my mother was dressed to go out, leaving me with father as a small boy, sprawled out on the living room floor, scissors in hand, playing by myself, when mother walked by me, crossing the room, with blood showing on her ankle. I had not wanted her to leave me alone for the first time, I think, with father. I must have tried to stop her in this way in order to protect myself. I wasn't chastised. Nothing was said. I remember only that mother left, quietly left. Many times over the years, and now nearly all the years of my life ago, it returns again in memory and also with remorse, but with reason, knowing that this was my first experience of remorse of conscience, absolved now with gratitude and wonder, to know that even then I could suffer remorse, that divine impulse already present in me that must be acquired if absent, without which the love that comes with our birth is lost on us. That's a great fucking poem. soul. I realize that there's really nothing to achieve. It is all about learning and growing in spirit by using life to guide us on our path that only we can walk and know from what we see and touch and feel in our fingertips, perhaps, that touch the soul indirectly and sometimes even all at once in an unforgettable experience that immediately tells us who we are by what touched us and stayed in our memory because still alive in our heart. Our heart being a book we can view with our spirit that comes and goes without a sound, but its whisper stays with us and returns with its memory, now held firmly in our hearts. Her name lost. What was the shyness, this inversion that kept me at arm's length from other humans, living in the poorest part of town, but finding myself one day in a better neighborhood, just out of high school, suddenly invited to join in some activity there by an attractive girl, a class ahead of me that I felt unequal to, shy, frightened, feeling inadequate and uncomfortable with this girl I hardly knew, whose life was privileged compared to mine, or so I believed. And so I backed away without facing my feelings, sensing only my inadequacy and unable to reason with myself, wanting only to get away. And now I want to return to that place and time. Yet still there, recoverable in feeling, wanting repair, to join the broken parts of the splendor of youth and promise and the delight of a place still there, and mine, its beauty untarnished by my failure to join what is also mine to hold, unblemished forever by absence and time. And so then, why must there always be something or other to do? My name, Hutai, comes to me again from Joseph Rael, the medicine man, who I like to say saved my life by freeing me from a school I was in, where the teacher was going mad while her children fled or cracked up or hid away from themselves. The next thing, isn't that what life is about in the final analysis? A daily reincarnation that Joseph Rael was telling me is my life. But with me it is indelible by instinct and nature and temperament. And now in a belief that we are able, going forward, to always, whether willingly, intentionally or not, that with me was always instinctive and so deep that even now, with the end nearing, I want to be free, to flee once more, although there is nowhere better to go than where I am right now, that I must accept as the future and final step, and die like a man, here in this circle where I turn, watch and wait. Well, what else, as my mother liked to say, just taking life in and allowing it to take me freely away or freely to stay. there will be an answer. Let it be. The thing about my name, Hutai, which I don't explain here, is that I asked him once, what's my Indian name, Joseph? He said, Hutai. I said, what's that? He said, it's a game. There's a little hole in the embankment and an object in your hand about the same size. You have to keep throwing the object in your hand into this circle, this hole. I said, yes, and what happens when it goes in? He said, oh, you do it again. I just start crying. That's who I am.
Oh,
I
thank
do it
you.
again. I do it again. I
Thank you for being so emotional.
what?
I said thank you for being so emotional. It really puts a different perspective on your life and your poems, and I'm honored to listen to you.
Yeah, well, emotion is part of life. You don't want me to be so emotional?
I do. It means a lot.
Yeah, we can really feel with your emotions, we can really feel the poems, I think, on a much deeper level than just hearing the words.
Mm-hmm. But the game was interesting because you said you just do it again. My whole life was, no matter what I did, I always did the next thing. I never rested on my laurels. I never waited for praise or anything. Well, I mean, I like that too, but I didn't live for that. I lived to do it again and again and again. And that's what I'm doing now at 93. I'm doing it again every day and never stop. That's my life.
And that's
life.
truly inspiring. It's truly inspiring. It has definitely, your words have definitely inspired me to keep going. Thank you.
Should I keep going?
Right.
Should I keep going?
If we want, let's open it up to questions from the audience. Does anybody want to ask Mr. Kherdian anything about his poetry, his inspirations, his life, anything that he's read tonight? Okay, so a question from the chat. When did you first want to be a writer?
It was a long time. I wanted to be an artist first. And then when I'd be a writer, I don't know. I used to read a lot. I don't know when it happened. Maybe when I was 19 or 20. I don't know. I wrote my first poem when I was 35. It took me a long time. But I've done a tremendous amount of work in that time. But I started late. I was slow about everything. Slow to grow up, slow. So, but then I had a long life, so I got it back at the end.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Another question. What and when was the last poem you wrote?
What was the last poem I wrote?
Yeah, when was it and what?
Oh, I think about two or 3 days ago. Actually, I'm slowing down for the first time in my life, so I don't remember the poem now, but it was about 3 days ago, maybe. But I've been writing. I usually write a poem on average every day. That's been going on for years.
Reminds me too of your good friend and my good friend Sam Hammond. He would write almost every single day too, up until his, until his passing. Okay. Another question from the chat. How do you think writing has affected your life? Has it helped you deal with hardships or maybe express yourself?
My writing, it's done
Yeah.
all those things. It helped me fulfill myself and complete myself and understand myself and grow myself and above them all, become myself. That is the thing that everyone needs and that everyone can achieve, just to be yourself. But you have to know what that is. And that might take you a long time to figure out. but to be true to yourself. But first, you have to make a self. Life is very, very difficult, but it's difficult, but it's doable, and it's achievable, and there's nothing else worth doing but to write work to become yourself.
Mm-hmm. Good. Okay, next question. What inspired you to become a writer?
Well, reading. I read a lot. I read children's books, and I read stories. I got interested in the Indians, so I read a lot of James Willard Schultz's books, all of them, I guess. He was a squaw man. He's a white man who married into the tribe. And in fact, I wrote his biography, based largely on his own work. Can't even think of the name of it. But yeah, that's what did it for me.
Okay, good. A comment from the chat, not a question, saying you're truly an inspiration for being so vulnerable with us. And I think, again, I hear a lot of that emotion and a lot of the stuff you've experienced through your life in your poems. A question I have, if there's anyone else again in the chat, feel free to type in the chat. My question for you, I think a lot of, and when I'm speaking to my classes at Wor-Wic and just some of my friends that I know, they don't know really anything about Armenia. So is there anything that you think somebody should know, or what is one thing most people, the average American, should know about Armenia?
Well, I suppose it's a great nation, but it's very small, and it was the only Christian nation in that part of the world, and so that's where all conflicts and fighting was about, and the genocide was about. The Turks wanted to eliminate who were Muslims, and they wanted to eliminate them. So I think it was a highly developed culture. It's great art going. The thing I retold a 9th century epic. That's 300 years before Homer, and it's a great book. I would recommend it to anybody. It's called David of Sassoon, and 9th century I retold. It took me 2 years to do it, but I did a great job. Other than
Awesome.
that,
I'm going to type the title of that book in the chat, so that way if anybody is interested, they can look it up afterward. David of Sassoon. Yes, his retelling of an ancient Armenian epic. Does anyone have any other questions for Mr. Kherdian? If not, I have another one. Okay. So my second question is, again, our dear friend Sam Hamid always said that if there was one masterpiece of yours, it was The Road from Home. Recounting the experience that your mother had during the Armenian genocide. So what was it like to write about something, about a historic event that was just so awful, and having that personal connection from your mother? What was it like to write something like that?
Let's see. First of all, I did it as a gift to my mother. She said all the Armenians said, grow up to their children, grow up and tell my story. Well, nobody did. And then I'm the only person from that town of around 100,000 people, but I was the only person, Armenian, who became a writer. And so I wasn't really looking forward to writing it, but or I wasn't trying to avoid it either. It wasn't something I was going to do. It never occurred to me that was something to do. But I felt obliged to do it for my mother as a gift to my mother, and I couldn't really get out of it because I was a writer, and I was the only writer in that town. So if I didn't do it, nobody would do it. So it would be a big weight on my conscience, which I didn't want to carry the rest of my life. So I wrote the book. It took me, I don't know, a couple of years, but I wrote it. And it got a Newbery Honor book. It's been translated around the world. So the great gift I gave to my mother really came back to me as well. So that's a good lesson in life. when you give what you give away, you get back.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. And if any of you are interested in that, again, it's called The Road from Home, and it's the story of his mother surviving the Armenian genocide. Okay, another um comment, favorite phrases from your reading: comforting each other with silence, a daily reincarnation, and that the tongue is a member of the heart, not the head. So beautiful, deep thoughts. So thank you for the comment, Professor Franks. Does anyone else
I
have
didn't.
any? Go ahead, David.
No, go ahead. I didn't hear what you said. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask, are there any other questions or comments for Mr. Kherdian? Okay. All right. We have one from our dean, Dr. Riley. She said, your poems touch my heart very deeply. When you write, you are aware that your audience will also be deeply touched, or is that a secondary gain to your writing?
I mean, what does it have to do with my writing? That I
Yeah,
didn't
do
write.
you?
I didn't write. I mean, everyone writes to be heard, but I didn't write in order to be sure. I don't have any expectations put on the audience. All the expectations I had, I put on myself. You know,
Mhm,
and I didn't know what I was going to get back. I still don't know. I just do the work, and that's all.
yeah.
Everyone. That's the only way to live, and do your work, and let
Mhm,
life take care of itself.
mhm. Very true. Okay. Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Kherdian? And Miss Harper posted in the chat that there is a survey form if you can complete that before you guys sign off. Anything else for Mr. Kherdian tonight? Any other questions, comments? Feel free to type in the chat, or if you want to just unmute and share just your thoughts.
Usually, the women love my work a lot because it's full of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised. Did none of the women ask the question?
Yeah, most of them did. Yeah. And I think
Oh,
too,
they
because,
did.
yeah, because a lot of your writing is from, it's kind of recounting some of your mother's stories and experiences. I think that is
Mm-hmm.
very impactful. And I see that in your writing too, just from the writing from your mother's perspective with so much passion and
Mm-hmm.
everything and just your
Mm-hmm.
emotions. And again, I appreciate you as I know you're turning 93 in December, and I mean, I I,
Mm-hmm.
I applaud you for still writing up well into your 90s and
Mm-hmm.
keep going. Like you said, every day you try to write a poem and it keeps, I think, your mind going. That's what our,
Mm-hmm.
our friend Sam had said. Anyone else want to
Yeah.
share any comments before we call it a night? All right. Well, thank you. Can we get a round of applause for Mr. Kherdian if you want to do the Zoom emoji or if you want to unmute and clap or say any comments? It was great having you tonight. And
Mm-hmm.
again, if you can please fill out the survey that Professor Harper put in the chat, it would be greatly appreciated. Our third Echoes and Visions reading of the semester is coming up on Monday, November 11th at 6:30 p.m. It'll also be on Zoom. Our featured writer for that one will be Hanai Gigoma, who is a member of the Kiowa tribe of Oklahoma, and he is one of the most prolific Native American playwrights in U.S. history. He started a theater group in the 1970s and consisting of members of all different tribes across the country. And it's definitely a must see to hear Hanai Gigama come and present at Wor-Wic. All right. Thank you all so much for your attendance tonight. And I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so,
Good
so
night.
much. This was wonderful. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. Good night.
Take care.
Good
Thank you,
night.
David. Thanks
Thank you
again.
so much.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.